evening, Rotorua. Tonight on City News, local inner-city businesses are being encouraged to attend the Active Crime Prevention Seminar being held at the RDC on Thursday. Another outstanding Rotorua speech and drama competition wound up last night, and in sport, the Bay of Plenty Rugby Union calls for registrations for their July school holiday program. Active crime prevention is the focus of a seminar for local business being held at the RDC on Thursday. The seminar is aimed at inner-city operators and licensed liquor outlets. Brett Wilson from Watchdog Security says topics covered will include staff safety, stock losses and preventing crime.
There is a guest speaker from Australia, a guy, Tony Lake, who is a world-renowned expert on SIPTED, that's the environmental design. So he'll be going on about the design aspects, the physical design aspects of crime prevention. We'll be covering such things. Our guest speaker is Jane Searle, who's a former police detective, also a former lawyer. She's been involved in private sector fraud work in the UK for the National Health Service, and a number of other private sector areas as well.
More on the Active Crime Prevention Seminar coming up later in City News. Local publisher Tanya Short says she's still buzzing over an award win in the New Zealand Post Children's Book Awards. Taka Korowai won the Māori Language Award. Ms Short says the win will put more books on shelves around the country.
Now, apart from winning the Māori Language Award through New Zealand Post, you're up for other awards too, aren't you?
Yeah, we've just been nominated last week with the Lienza Children's Book Awards, and that's chosen by the libraries because it's Librarians Association of New Zealand, Aotearoa New Zealand. So that's pretty cool, and because if you look at the books that they've chosen for NZ Post compared to Lienza, there are a few similar ones, but also quite a new spread of other books. So
where can our residents of Rotorua find your book?
Well, it's here at McLeod's, obviously, and at Ahu in Edawita Street, and also at Fraser's new shop, Atlantis.
If you haven't received an enrolment pack by now, you're not enrolled to vote in this year's general election. Enrolment update packs were sent last week to the 3 million New Zealanders who are enrolled to vote. Rotorua Registrar of Electors Richard Marshall says many people do not receive their packs because they've moved house and not updated their enrolment details.
Well, election day is Saturday the 20th of September this year, so people have, in theory, up until the day before the election day to enrol. However, if they enrol by RIT Day, which is the 20th of August, that means that it will be easier for them when they go to vote on election day. Everyone who's enrolled up to the 20th of August will receive an Easy Vote card in the mail, which they then take along to them with them to a polling booth on election day. It speeds up the process and it makes it much easier for them.
Let's talk about the legal side of things, Richard. What are the laws and the rules around voting and registering here in New Zealand?
Yeah. Okay, so it's compulsory to enrol to vote in New Zealand, providing you meet the criteria. So that is that you're at least 18 years of age, that you're a permanent resident of New Zealand, and that you've lived here for at least 12 months in the country. If you meet that criteria, then by law you need to enrol. A lot of Kiwis have moved overseas, or they're overseas temporarily. If they are overseas and they've been back in New Zealand at least once in the last 3 years, then they can stay on the electoral roll and they can still vote.
The future of performing arts in the region is in good hands if this year's Rotorua speech and drama competitions are anything to go by. The competition wound up last night with more than 220 young performers taking part in the 3 days of competition held at the Energy Event Centre. Competition co-convener Jane Spence says the level of talent in Rotorua was excellent and the future of the performing arts in the city was in good hands.
There's about 225 kids. They each can enter up to 6 events, and so we have about 850, 900 pieces that we all have to timetable over the 3 days.
So a busy time for you guys, eh?
Yeah, it is a busy time. It's good fun. It's a real highlight the weekend.
And sport now, the Bay of Plenty Rugby Union is bringing their Steamers training group to Rotorua again these school holidays. Coach Mark Roberts says the program is aimed at both boys and girls aged between 7 and 12 years. He says a successful program was run during the first school holidays this year, so warranted a repeat run this time. The holiday rugby program is in the second week of the school holidays and is being held at Rotorua Primary School. For more information, you can visit BOP Rugby, one word, boprugby.co.nz/community rugby. To the weather update now. For tonight, showers, some heavy, westerlies and an overnight low of 5. For tomorrow, Wednesday, showery again, strong westerlies, a high of 9 and a low of 1. And forward out to Thursday, showers easing, strong southwesterlies easing, a high of 10 and a low of 2. And the marine forecast for Lake Rotorua for Wednesday, westerlies rising to 20 knots in the morning, easing to 15 knots at night, waves rising to half a metre for a time, fair visibility and showers. And remember, for program listings, check out our website, that's tvrotorua.co.nz, or head to our Facebook page, of course that's TV Rotorua. Still to come tonight on City News, we catch up with Grey Power President Rosemary McKenzie at last week's AGM. We have more on Thursday's Active Crime Prevention Seminar, and we have highlights from last week's Trustpower Rotorua District Community Awards.
Well, we all know what a wonderful job Grey Power does to advocate for the older folk in our community, and we've been lucky enough today to catch up with Rosemary McKenzie, who is the president of Grey Power here in Rotorua, and we're actually down here at the AGM, so we're going to head inside and catch up with a few people in there and see what's going on. Hi Rosemary, good to have you on the show today. Now, there's about 80 people in here at the Grey Power AGM. Is that a quite a surprising number for you?
It's about average for an interesting AGM, and we've got a very interesting speaker this time. So yes, we've done better when we've had the Prime Minister, but yeah, you've got to be really up there too. But 80's good, given that we've got 1,300 members. Yeah.
Yeah. Now there's the people that are in there. Not all of them have got grey hair, so there's obviously a couple of younger ones in there as well.
Well, they're probably over 50. So that's where we are with the active organisation for those 50 plus. So, and just because you're over 65 doesn't mean, you can't go to the hairdresser and get a little help.
That's true. I know Graham does. Graham's our cameraman, of course. Now, one of the things I noticed when we were in the AGM, Rosemary, is that you had to put up the subs, obviously, to cover costs, and funding is always an issue with organisations like yourselves. But the really surprising thing is that everybody agreed. So did that surprise you as well?
It did surprise me a little. Normally when you have to put up the subs, you get a little bit of certainly questioning as to why it needs to be done, and to have it go through quite so smoothly was actually quite a compliment, because they're obviously recognising the fact that the committee does an extremely good job on very little money.
Now, one of the big things, I guess, with the Grey Power is recruiting new members. So is there any new initiatives that you guys are doing to recruit new people?
The latest one that we've got, of course, is the Grey Power Electricity, which is being an absolute godsend to those of us on the super. It's reducing the cost of our electricity quite considerably, and it is starting to attract members who have maybe thought we would join Grey Power, but this is the incentive that they needed. Yeah.
What sort of things, other things were you talking about at the AGM?
The AGM is the way going forward, the work's still to be done, the work done on behalf of Grey Power members by the advocacy team at Federation Office, and the fact that we now have a new office, which is a cost and a drain, but it's absolutely wonderful place for people to pop in and have a chat, and they do. It's been
and have a cup of tea?
Probably, and a cup of tea and a biscuit. Yeah, we even run to a biscuit, though, not a chocky biscuit. And it's been absolutely wonderful. It's probably one of the better moves that we've made, yes.
Now, you also had a discussion about getting your newsletter sent electronically. Were you surprised with the amount of hands that went up that were willing to receive that via the internet?
To have that number out of an audience that size, it was, though I'm not surprised. We have about 300 plus members who are, or households I should call them, because some of them are couples on our 1,000 households that we have. So the electronic age is slowly catching up with those of us who are a little bit long in the tooth.
Yeah, some of those people do seem to be computer savvy, don't they?
Oh, very, very, yes. They leave me for dead at times, and I thought I was pretty smart.
Let's talk about your guest speaker, Molly Malish, a little bit. Where did she come from?
Molly is domiciled in Wellington. She is actually has been a long-term member of Grey Power. She's also serves on one of our advisory committees, the Energy Advisory Committee, of course, because that's her great passion. She's a very strong advocate for the consumers in the electricity industry, because we tend to be the forgotten people. We're only the ones who pay the bills, of course. And she's very knowledgeable about the industry, how it functions, why it functions the way it does, and what can we do to fix it. Not that the government ever listens, of course, but when it starts to involve money and maybe the market's not as wonderful a place as it was, then perhaps
people start to listen.
To listen when it involves money.
Now you mentioned the government elections coming up very shortly. Now Grey Power is a non-political organisation, but is there any sort of political parties that you guys do sort of steer towards or anything like that?
No, there isn't. We look for policy, and if a party's policy fits Grey Power policy, then we draw that to the attention of the members, but at no time would we tell them or even hint to them that there's a political party that deserves their vote.
Good stuff. That's a good way to be. Thanks for your time, Rosemary.
You're
awesome.
very welcome.
Well, unfortunately, criminals always seem to find a way to commit their acts of crime here in our city. But fortunately, Watchdog here on Haupapa Street are being proactive in our community and holding a seminar. Now we're going to head inside and catch up with Brett Wilson, who is the Managing Director, and find out what it's all about. Hi Brett, good to have you on City News today. Now it's not always one of the nice things we get to talk about here at TV Rotorua, but there's always rat bags in town that like to go around our retailers and do a bit of shoplifting and stealing things, and it is a bit of an issue, not here in Rotorua, not just here in Rotorua, but all around the New Zealand and the world. But what can retailers do to prevent people from shoplifting?
The key thing, Alan, I think, is that they need to make themselves a hard target. There's an international crime prevention theory that talks about situational crime prevention, and it works on the premise that offenders subconsciously or consciously will make decisions about the risk of committing a crime versus the reward, and will subconsciously weigh that up. And out of that's evolved a number of theories like SIPTED, which is situational crime prevention through environmental design. So these theories all revolve around people making themselves a hard target, and there's a number of ways that they can do that, such as the layout of their store, the policies and procedures that they have in their store, the training of their staff, even goes into such factors as recruiting the staff, because it's not only external theft that is a risk factor for retailers.
It must be really discouraging for retailers and business owners knowing that their staff potentially could be thieves.
Yeah, it is. Well, studies show that actually staff theft accounts for more product loss than shoplifting on average. It is discouraging, but it's probably an issue that's not dealt with enough by business owners. It tends to be the good old Kiwi she'll be right attitude, and there tends to be a little bit of burying their heads in the sand when it comes to that issue, and they prefer to just deal with the external stuff rather than their own internal stuff.
Now I know recently, and especially a couple of years ago also, some stores, and I think Warehouse was one of them, they had large cardboard cutouts of security guards and policemen. Is that really a deterrent for thieves or thieves?
I don't think so. I think it's probably more a deterrent for honest people than it is for the criminal element. No, I don't. I think there's a lot more to it than simply putting a cardboard cutout at the door, and that there's a lot more that stores like that can do to make themselves a hard target.
Now, one of the things that's coming up is a seminar that Watchdog is hosting, and that's obviously to help retailers with crime prevention. So what sort of things are going to be discussed at this seminar?
A whole number of factors. There is a guest speaker from Australia, a guy, Tony Lake, who is a world-renowned expert on SIPTED, that's the environmental design. So he'll be going on about the design aspects, the physical design aspects of crime prevention. We'll be covering such things. Our guest speaker is Jane Searle, who's a former police detective, also a former lawyer. She's been involved in private sector fraud work in the UK for the National Health Service, and a number of other private sector areas as well. So we'll be talking on factors right through from recruiting, how to do background checks on staff and recruiting processes, whistleblower policies, so that is setting up a system where staff can report to their management confidentially their suspicions, because what we find in investigating internal theft, there's always other people who've had suspicions but they've never known how to report it.
Now obviously this seminar is going to be very enlightening and educational for these retailers. Where do they need to register?
They register through Linda Johnson at the Rotorua District Council. She's taking registrations. They are still open. It's not a lot, it's only $15 a head, and you get a breakfast for that as well. And we'll be covering off a whole lot of tips that will be really useful. Not only we've talked about the internal threats, but also procedures and policies for managing external threats as well, such as from the shoplifting we already talked about, but right through to armed robbery, people intoxicated or on drugs, risk presented by that sort of stuff as well.
Yeah. Now, what sort of time and date are we looking at here?
It's on the 3rd of July, so that's this Thursday at 7 o'clock in the morning. So
at the convention centre, so it's a great venue to have it at.
Yep.
Now, just before we go, this is a great initiative that you guys have started up here in Rotorua, but there's also collaboration with various organisations in town. Obviously the police, Ministry of Justice and RDC, the It Is City Focus Group and Neighbourhood Support. So in your opinion, obviously this is a great collaboration of cities, businesses and organisations.
Oh, absolutely. It's something that's evolved out of the Inner City Focus Group's relationship with Rotorua District Council, and there's just another facet of their work to improve the whole Rotorua City business district.
Now, obviously, you have to set up your new business here in Haupapa Street, and you walk in here, and it's all very nice and quite corporate looking. How's business for you guys going?
Really good. We've had probably our strongest start to the year, and summer start to the year than we've had for 5 years in terms of new business coming in. And so, yeah, we're really positive about it.
Cool. Good bright future ahead.
Yeah, it is. It is, although it's never really a bright future having a business that's around crime prevention. But yeah, no, I think the Rotorua economy is starting to show good signs.
Yeah, good stuff. Right, Brett. Appreciate your time.
Thanks, Alan.
Well, you know, around New Zealand there are something like 1.2 million people, believe it or not, involved in volunteer work in something like 97,000 non-for-profit organisations. Here at the Convention Centre tonight, we're just a small part of that, but for Rotorua it's a big part. With me is someone who's very, very happy to be here because she's the Mayor of Rotorua, the Rotorua District Community Awards and the Trustpower Rotorua District Community Awards here tonight. Good combination. This is the first time this has been put together, if you like, literally.
Yes. And it's because we wanted a wider community to actually appreciate and value the work of volunteers, and they were here, a packed hall tonight in the old hometown.
That's right. You're going to break into song there for a moment. But again, someone alluded to it earlier, Steve, and that was the fact that there are everybody from the youngsters right through to the older people. Without them and without the crowd that was here and all the people associated with them, this city kind of wouldn't function the same.
No,
would that be a fair comment?
Absolutely, it would come to its knees, and the depth of service is what stuns you when you hear every group and every individual from the schools, and it is an astonishing commitment, and they are our glue.
Yeah, good way to put it. Why combine the two? I mean, you've obviously, the District Council has its awards as well, community awards where it acknowledges volunteers.
It's not
Trustpower coming on board, you know.
It's not about the council, is it? It's really about our community actually being gobsmacked by these wonderful volunteers, and so we thought it was better to not tax the community by two separate occasions that we never made sense to me as to why we didn't amalgamate. It's a longer night, but I think the community love it. The stories are lovely.
That's right. And I think Graham Purchase from Trustpower alluded just a little while ago about the fact that you learn so much when you come together to be surrounded by this sort of people.
It's very humbling, and look at the acknowledgement. I found it so interesting that so many thank their mothers in particular who got them up and got them involved in the community, and that's a legacy issue
about
families.
Thing? Yeah.
It still goes on today. Look at the kids today, and look at these groups. They will be the groups of the future. So it's there, and it's alive and well. And look at the service of our young children for their contribution as well as academic learning pathways. So
because they're going to be the role models of the future,
they are.
aren't they?
They are. But it makes you feel good about your community.
Absolutely.
And tato tato.
That's right.
We're together.
You like that. That's fair enough too. Let me ask you, because I know last year you went with Flavoursome, who were last year's Supreme Award winners, to Bluff Country. You an oyster fan?
No.
No, pity. But anyway, they had a wonderful time.
Yeah.
You had a wonderful time.
Yes,
now
we
the
did.
Supreme Award winners tonight are the Empowered Learning Trust. What are they in for when they head to Wellington
They're
this
going to
year?
have an amazing time in Wellington, but what they'll learn most is that they know they've got a unique product here. This is early intervention. The rest of the country will be so interested, and I think it's the comments that Flavoursome made about now their world's changed. A lot of people contacting them to say, how did you do it? How do you get families involved? How do you grow it? And they're learning skills, and they know where to go to ask for help. The Empowered Learning Trust are going to realise that all around the country they will be asked, how did you set this up? Why did you do it? Who did you get help from? And what difference does it make? So this will ripple right through the country.
They can be precedents to others, can't they?
Yeah, and that's the brilliance of the Trustpower Community Awards. It's a great contribution to the community. It's electric.
That's right. And obviously one gets blessed when one joins up with something like that and gives, I think the word was selflessly. What would you say to anyone watching the program right now in terms of someone's got some time, maybe got some skills, but don't know which way to go?
Well, we want to be a people-friendly community, and it is about get up off the couch, don't be shy. There are so many different organisations that would love your skill. Look at the library group, that they're packing books in banana boxes and treasuring a legacy of books and learning. There's everything you can do, just knowing about it and get involved, and you'll make friends.
And there's probably not one organisation that was represented here tonight that wouldn't agree if I said there's always room for more volunteers.
Oh, totally, all of them, and we need them. And there are so many people alone and isolated and lonely. There's no need for that in our community. It's a wonderful, deep, caring and giving community. We saw it tonight. I do get up and get involved.
Let's do it. Thank you for being here tonight, but thanks for your time.
I love it.
Well.
You know.
Indeed.
You do too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jess, first time it's been done in a combined sense, but it's worked very well.
Yeah, it's been really neat to be able to celebrate all of these achievements with young and old in front of such a neat audience, and an audience that understands because they're all volunteers themselves. So yeah, it's been a really good night.
Someone to my right here is very excited too. Just come in here. Karen Barker is the spokesperson for the Supreme Award winners for 2014, and that is the Empowered Learning Trust. You've calmed down a little bit now.
A little, yes.
A little, but there's a bit of celebrating to do. A
Absolutely.
little bit, very briefly, on the beginnings of the trust.
We were a group of interested parents who just could see that there was a need in our communities just to support the schools and the work that they do, and to try and remove any barriers that our kids are facing in their education, so that they can step up and enjoy and to make the most out of their education and reach their potential.
Congratulations once again, and thank you, Jess, for on behalf of us
Our pleasure.
and the viewers for the Trustpower work. We love having you guys here in Rotorua. Come back next year.
Yes, absolutely.
And certainly great to see volunteers in our community being honoured at the awards. And by the way, if you have a news event that TV Rotorua can support, call our office and talk with one of our friendly team. That's 07 3488 984. Or of course you can email us at news@tvrotorua.co.nz. And if you miss anything in tonight's show, you can watch it again at tvrotorua.co.nz. Thanks for having us at your place. From all the team here at City News, the Maria.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.